Code 3 discusses real first responder experiences, including trauma, PTSD, and critical incidents. Some content may be triggering. If you are struggling or in crisis, please call or text 988 for support. Viewer discretion advised.
And I almost passed away because of it, but a doctor saved my life.
All the traumas and stuff that I went through, it shaped the past 10 years of my life.
The officer who was the target of the investigation took his life.
Shots fired, 147 Maple Street. Requesting backup.
I'm Jose, and welcome to Code 3.
Hello, everybody. Mike, welcome to episode 2 of the Code 3 podcast.
Hey guys, welcome back. I'm Joe.
We want to thank everybody for the support they've given our podcast, viewers on our social media sites. There's been a great response to our content, and we just want to thank everybody out there who's watching it, and thank you for your support.
Yeah, likewise. Surprised at the amount of direct messages that I'm getting. Questions that have really hit home. And I plan on answering them in this episode and future episodes. And again, I appreciate all the support, guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Been tons of support out there for all of us. Personally, I've had a lot of people reach out to me and just make really positive comments about everything we're doing. People who aren't in law enforcement learning about law enforcement, and people who are in law enforcement really liking the fact that we're illuminating different sides of it. So I really feel like things are going well, and I'm happy about it.
Good. I also want to reach out and say thank you to the correction officer organization throughout the country, because they don't get much recognition for the job that they do. I was a correction officer at the county level and also at the state level. And what they do is very important to our safety. And I just want to thank them and welcome them into our podcast.
As well as firefighters, EMS, anyone out there that's a civil servant, helping the communities. More than welcome. And just straight up civilians. We're going to be talking about a lot of things that's going to help everyone on the spectrum.
Yeah, and I feel really strongly that not only first responders, but their families, are affected by the things we go through,
Absolutely.
by their loved ones, go through. Is really important. Whether that's your child is a first responder, your parent is a first responder, your significant other, brother, sister, whatever. Yeah. It's all important because, sometimes when you're the civilian going, hey, where's the person I really care about? And they're at work on, Christmas Day. It's a difficult thing to accept sometimes. So, we're here for everybody, no matter who you are, where you come from. Everybody goes through struggles. You don't have to be a first responder to have mental health issues, to struggle with things, to go through just life. So we're here for everybody. Yeah,
and that's a good topic, Mike and Joe. The fact that when we're done doing the job that we do, serving the community or in whatever capacity we're doing that, we have to come back to our spouses and our children if we have them. And I'm sure it puts a strain on them. So how can people go about who are in our field, dealing with that, coming home and having to de-stress and having to, play their role in the family after going through all that trauma out on the street while doing the job of keeping the people who they serve safe?
You asking me that question?
Well,
go ahead, Mike. Go ahead.
I, for one, can recall coming home from patrol. Now, the only patrol shift that I ever worked was midnights. It's the only one, 18 years, 10 p.m. to 8 a.m. So I'm coming home, getting home around 8:30 or such. And some mornings I couldn't go home. I had to go sit in a park and decompress just for an hour or two, because literally there were days where the last thing I did at work was watch somebody die. And you go home to your family and you're just kind of like, how do I transition from seeing all this, horror to being a father, to being a spouse, to being quote unquote normal, whatever that heck that's supposed to mean, And I found that little half hour of decompression time was enough. Just kind of coming from the city, there's a park really close to my house, just the trees, the birds. It was early morning, the sun coming up. I was just kind of and just breathe and let it all out for a little bit. And then I was able to kind of okay, take that real breather. I found listening to music on the way home is something I like to do. Other people might listen to podcasts, like the Code 3 podcast. It's always a good one. And but things like that, you find things to distract yourself on your way home or trying to change gears. Now, when I put on a uniform, I really feel as if like I changed. If that makes sense to you guys. I don't know if you had that feeling. Like, okay, now I'm police officer Mike,
Yeah, you almost have to go into
It was
persona.
it was different when I was a
Yeah.
detective with you guys because the plain clothes made it kind of feel a little differently.
Absolutely.
But the moment there's Velcroing on body armor and you're double checking your
Big old
weapon
belt.
and you're checking your ankle gun and everything's tight and you're like, triple checking everything. Like it changed me into like, okay, I'm not going to have emotions. I'm going to attack what I have to attack and I'm going to go into it. And it's going to be like, I'm going to handle this, whatever comes at me. And then when you come home, you kind of got to take it all off. And I think some people refer to it as image armor, the image of the
So it's
police
just
officer.
like Clark Kent, Superman,
Yeah, almost
right?
in a way. Yeah, you're
Yeah.
absolutely right. And I had a routine like before work, I like to get to shift pretty early so I didn't feel rushed ever. And I like to get all my gear ready and double check the car, computer, whatever, what have you. And, I got my shower at a certain time. I did this at a certain time. And like I would listen to certain music and just kind of like change those gears. And it got to be such a routine, just the shifting of the gears that it became part of my day, my work days.
So it's amazing what you're saying because you have to shift into that role and then you have to shift back out of that role. And that can be difficult.
Shifting into it, I should think about this too. Like I said, I work midnights, right? I just woke up and had dinner, which is actually breakfast, but go figure, it's dinner time. And then I might sit around, just relaxing for an hour or two, and then I'm going to go work. So I'm prepared for that. But I'm coming home trying to deaccelerate from the crazy evening or shift that I just had. And I'm exhausted. It's morning. I can't even like see straight because the sun's, a lot when you've been up all night.
That's the
It
worst
just is,
feeling.
yeah.
When you're coming out of a third shift,
Yeah.
like a midnight shift, and you're coming home and everybody's getting up and the sun is out and you got to go to sleep.
Yeah.
I hated that feeling, man.
So at times it was really hard to transition into shifting. And the most difficult days were the ones where I knew people were going to be home. So like Saturdays or Sundays or like a holiday, like Christmas morning when you worked on Christmas Eve. And you guys ever work? I know you guys work Christmas Eves. That was a crazy night always. I got to open presents to my little girl now.
Yeah, it's difficult. Joe?
No, I never really looked at it like Mike because it's in plain clothes. So I internalized all of it until I went. My outlet was Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and boxing, and the amount of hypervigilance that I had after accumulating after so many years, even when times were good at work, it wasn't always like, stressful. Stressful, yeah, but not where you're constantly under attack. But I think the way my brain worked was it became a habit. Once I started that way earlier in my career, where I had that experience, I was always in that fight or flight. Instead of mine was just always fight. So that's the way I went into work every day, which could kill you. So what I did was I needed an outlet, and I wasn't going to drink, I told myself, because it's not the healthy way. In my mind, I'm thinking. But instead, I was doing other behaviors that were just as destructive, because you think about it now, I'm in my mid-30s, and I'm boxing, and I'm doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu with guys that are getting ready for their amateur fights in cages, or they're getting ready for tournaments. And these weren't the guys that were my age. These were younger guys, more athletic guys. And I'm right there with them the whole time. And whether I got tapped out, whether I got knocked out, whether I got punched, it all felt the same to me. It felt great, which is weird from somebody who doesn't understand. But that was my outlet. So after a great workout, after an hour like that, your body releases all the endorphins, and all that stress that I felt, all that hypervigilance just melted away. So I went from a state of like habitual fight to now, okay, I can't function when I go home without getting into some sort of controlled violent atmosphere, actually like engaging in violent sport. So that is a good thing to keep your mind and body in shape, but you do that for 15, 20 years and your body keeps score. For me, it wasn't a proper outlet for my genetic makeup. I mean, my genetics predisposed me to having cardiovascular disease. And I knew it. I kept it in the back of my mind. But at the same time, I'm thinking, I'm working out like an animal. I'm lifting heavy weights. I'll beat it. That's not the way it works. I found out later. Your body keeps score of everything. Stressors, you have your emotional stress at work, which I mentioned can become habitual if you don't address it. And then I had the physical stress after work. So for me, it was just stress, and then try to go to sleep. Wake up, all over again. 15, 20 years. Not good. So that's the way I dealt with it. So I didn't have to portray it, put it on my wife, let my kids see it. My kids were probably looking at me like, what the hell is wrong with you? Why are you going? And, you know, here I am with guys that are pretty well known in the MMA world, and I'm going at it with them. And it's, I look back and I'm like, what the hell was I doing? But now I know what I was doing. I needed an outlet or else I was going to explode. And yeah, did it teach me, you know, self-defense techniques? And, you know, am I able to teach? Is what I do today is I actually teach Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu at an academy here in Robbinsville. And I help younger guys. And a good thing is that I'm noticing is that there's a lot more guys and girls that are coming in that are police officers from neighboring towns, which I didn't see in the beginning. To get a cop to do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu was...
Yeah, you tried to get me to do it.
Yeah, forget about it. Oh, I'm coming. I'll be there. No, I can't. I got a headache. But he wasn't the only one. There must have been about 10, 15 guys that I tried. Listen, believe me, it works. It helps. You know, it's good to learn. You know, the optics, especially for patrol guys, the optics of it. It's so much better to use your body weight to control an assailant or a suspect, using weight and weight distribution as opposed to the optics of you just, you know, John Wayne somebody while he's on the ground, you know.
John Wayne?
Yeah, like haymakers, you know what I mean, on the ground. That looks terrible. And to be quite honest with you, that's not what we were taught in the academy. No. It's a tremendous art, martial art to learn for our profession. And I hope a lot more guys do it. I'm in the midst of putting together a self-defense class for law enforcement. No details yet because we don't know exactly where, when, how, but it's in the works.
I want to be a part of that.
We'll make you our
crash dummy,
our grappling dummy. But yeah, so, you know, that's how I dealt with it. You know, I don't know how you dealt with it. You said you were able to like make it go away. I don't know how you did that.
You know what? I have a very profound spiritual life, and I was able to just meditate and focus on the things that really matter. And on the ride home, which was about 15, 20 minutes, man, it just happened. And I'm very grateful to be able to have done that.
Yeah,
but in your life, Joe, what I noticed when you were working with me and you were going through those situations, the stress of the job, and also you were obsessed with jiu-jitsu. I remember, bro, you were burning the candle at both ends, as they say.
Yeah.
And I watched you do that because you were at work for 8 hours and then you had to get that escape. And I remember it was like an addiction where you would have to go to the gym. And I'm like, this guy's crazy.
It was.
Because, you know, you were doing both extreme. You were a police officer, which is extreme. And at the same time, you were going at jiu-jitsu like 100% extreme.
Yeah.
And I'm saying to myself, like, when does it end?
Well, if you start jiu-jitsu and you'll find out that it encompasses you, you become addicted to it too. So I was addicted to the stress.
I get that.
I was addicted to jiu-jitsu. I was addicted to just combat sports. That was me. Does it make me a tough guy? No. I mean, I got my butt kicked for years before I even learned how to submit somebody.
But at the end,
you know,
the result was not a very good one, is my point. You know what I'm saying?
No, I mean, it wasn't a good one. But then again, you know, so the long and the short of it is that towards my 13th, 14th year of training, I got my black belt. I started experiencing weird symptoms in my body. Like my back really started hurting. And I was just like, I really can't, because jiu-jitsu, there's a lot of contortion, you know, moving your spine in different ways. So I figured, I hurt my lower back, the long and the short of it, wear and tear. It happens to us as we get older. So what I said was, all right, I got to give jujitsu a break, but how do I get that intensity? So I ramped up the swimming. So everything I did was at 110 miles an hour outside of work, even at work sometimes, because we were under pressure, background checks on potential police officers.
Yes.
That was so difficult.
Stupid timelines, like let's get them done in a week. Well, what if we screw up and we bring in somebody that doesn't deserve to be a police? A lot of pressure on us, right? You have to do a comprehensive background. You need at least a good month, and we were given sometimes 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
So
2 weeks, 2 days.
so what happened was
Towards the end.
2 days.
At
I never had
times.
2 days. But what Joe is saying is 2 weeks, and each one of us had maybe 10 candidates.
Yeah, it wasn't realistic, and you explain that to someone, and you would get an attitude because from superior officers who didn't know how to do a background to begin with, and that's a different part of the discussion. But there was a lot there, so I started getting these back pains, and I said, you know what, I got to start having another outlet because jiu-jitsu right now I have to give it a break while my back heals up. And at the same time, I had neck issues. Anyway, old man stuff. So I started swimming, and again, everything was at 110 miles an hour. I'm swimming. I started developing a little bit of shoulder pain. I shrugged it off, took a couple Motrin, and I ended up where I had to get rushed to the hospital. I developed a clot in my left anterior descending artery on my heart, and I almost passed away because of it. But a doctor saved my life.
Just to be clear on that, what Joe just described in medical terms is what they call the Widowmaker. Is that correct, Joe?
It's the Widowmaker. It's it's usually just turn the lights off on you. I can't. Since I've had it done, I've done a ton of research on it. I'm not a doctor, but usually it's just like flipping off a switch and you go. Luckily for me, I got to the hospital in time and I was saved by a great doctor. And here I am today.
Thank God. Thank God you're here with us, Joe.
Yeah. I had a lot of spiritual, I guess you can call it an awakening after that happened. But again, for a later show, how I dealt with that, feelings of like almost passing away. I mean, that's not something that it's easily to just shrug off. It stays with you. So yeah, I mean, look, was it the job that did it to me, or was it me that did it to me because of the job? I don't know. I'm not going to blame a profession that supported me and my family. The profession is a noble one, as I stated in my bio. I respect the police. Anyone that does this line of work is, in my opinion, a hero. So, I'm not here to bash the police. No way, shape, or form, despite what's going on in recent events. That is a tough job. But, in our job, we do see situations where I think the people that do it become so, I guess, hardened by it.
Yes.
That
Numb.
when they become our bosses, and Jose's got a story, right? It's situations where a boss might not even realize how nasty they can be with guys who are just trying to do the job. Things that they say, stupid orders that they put out.
One thing too is the constant rush that you're under to get everything done immediately.
Yeah, and it wasn't every supervisor.
You described you described deadlines with backgrounds and all that good thing. Like, you have to have this done by this time, this day, because the director needs to see it, and it had to be done. Believe me, because if it wasn't, it was your tail was in the sling.
It happens in every profession.
But policing, I found to be super rushed, and that was a big stressor for me. So, my last few years were in patrol, and that constant status check from over the, hey, unit, whatever, give me your status check. How much longer is it going to be? How much longer? I don't know, dispatch. I have 4 people under arrest here, and I'm really trying my best. I really, really, really am. But it's a constant stat. And then your sergeant's calling you, and then this and this. And what I noticed though, like we're talking about outside lives and how work affects us. I was so fast and furious, like you talked about, with everything in my life. Like I'm driving fast because I had to get there fast. And it didn't make sense to me why. And it took me a long time to actually slow down from that. And then It's just that habit of like, and listen, like you get sent to an emergency in a police car. What are you doing? You're pedal to the metal to get there. You have to, it's
And
part of the
that's
deal.
Yeah, it becomes
Code
part
3,
of your
lights and
life.
sirens on the whole way.
Right. So it kind of adapts to personal life, or at least it is for me. I'm living in a police car 15 hours a day, basically after the layoffs. That was a crazy time.
Yeah.
And I was either driving to work, from work, or driving at work, it seemed like, for a lot of days there. So, it was just my life was very fast.
So, basically, the supervision, a lot of supervisors are getting, pressure from their supervisors,
Right.
and pressures from their supervisors, and it trickles down.
Right.
And it trickles down.
Right.
And that's how, we felt that pressure, for investigations. And our primary thing for investigations and working was never, mine anyway, was never to hurt anyone. If you're a knucklehead and you're not doing the right thing, well, there's not so much I can do for you. But our thing was, our investigations were tough because you're dealing with the livelihoods of other officers, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Jose, like you had, just to put a bow on it real quick before we go into other discussions, you had a situation where you mentioned in the last episode where, you had a pretty messy investigation that almost, it felt like everyone was scared to touch. And it became pretty intense for you. And as I mentioned, I felt it. If you're willing to talk about it, just so we could put a bow on it, get it out of the way so we can start talking about good stuff that people need to know about. If you're an officer and you're involved in internal investigations, you're the target, we're going to not guide you how to get out of trouble, but we're going to guide you on how to deal with that pressure, because I've seen both sides of it. When I was in patrol, I had a few complaints against me. Not because I was over aggressive, but because there's a game to that too. People want to get back sometimes because they're arrested, they're angry, they feel as though they haven't been, they've been arrested unlawfully, so they'll sign a complaint against the officer. Sometimes it's justified, sometimes it's not justified.
A lot of times, from what I remember, if I remember correctly, a lot of the complaints against officers were a way of defense attorneys having the police department do an investigation for them, in a way, meaning,
Bingo. Yeah.
meaning there's
that.
absolutely really nothing going on as far as like improper behavior with the police department or the police officer.
Mhm.
However, the defense attorney says, well, go file an internal affairs complaint. And it's a really good strategy, actually, because
Absolutely,
then
yeah,
internal
it's
affairs
a
looks
game.
into everything
Yeah,
and
yeah.
digs into all the facts. And then here's this report that the person can look at, whether the cop's right or wrong or whatever. And whoever the outcome is, you have it all investigated.
All right, yeah. So but in internal affairs, like we have this stigma that we're the bad guys.
Right.
They're the rats. They're the ones that are looking for stuff to blame police officers or get them fired,
If you
or
ever
hurt
seen
them,
a cop
hurt their
show,
families. Yeah, it's like
you
this
know.
the stigma. And the reality of it is we were all internal affairs detectives. I was there for quite a few years. Joe, a long time. You were there for about 4 or 5 years. And out of all the investigations that we conducted or were a part of, how many did you initiate?
Me personally?
Yes, you
It always
personally.
came from outside sources.
No, but how many did you initiate personally?
I can't recall any.
0, right?
No.
Joe, did you?
I never initiated one internal affairs investigation in my entire career.
Neither
No.
did I. We spent all these years in internal affairs, and no one sitting here right now initiated one investigation against another police officer.
To be honest, the majority of them, and now this was in my time there, which was a very contentious time with leadership in our police department that we talked about the last
Mhm.
episode. I would say the majority of the stuff I investigated was kind of one side of our department against another side of our department, or vice versa.
You're absolutely right.
And I don't know if I'm wrong with that, but that's how I felt.
Yeah,
And
we
when
were the
I recall back
referees.
to
we
those
were the
days.
referees.
Because it was
Yeah,
mostly,
the referees. Good point.
It was mostly
Good
political.
state. Yeah.
It was very political. This team against that team, or that guy doesn't like that guy.
And then you throw in some citizen complaints in the middle.
Yeah,
Right?
but so I'm going to say the majority of the initiated internal affairs investigations came from ranking officers or other officers within the department. A small portion came from maybe officers' personal lives, domestic violence,
Yeah.
accusations
Yes.
of those,
Crimes and all that.
those
yes.
kind of things. Maybe a very, very small percentage were citizen complaints, the community complained against the police officers. And from my experience, the majority of those complaints were demeanor complaints.
Yes. Agreed.
Demeanor complaints, they were big. I didn't like the
Agreed.
way the officer spoke to me. I didn't like the way he handled this, or he didn't do it the way I would have done it. So a lot of them were demeanor complaints. The smallest percentages I remember coming to our office were excessive force.
Yeah. They happen though.
And the majority of those complaints were what?
Defense attorney initiated.
And unsustained.
And unsustained. Yes.
So
Yeah, not
this,
sustained.
Not sustained, right?
not
Yes.
sustained,
Yeah.
not sustained. This notion that,
Or unfounded.
or unfounded, that police officers and internal affairs are out to get someone, it's a lie. It's not true.
From our perspective. I
Yeah,
mean, there's other
but
departments in the
there were-
world.
there
Well, I'm
were-
talking from my experience.
From
I
our
can't-
experience, yes.
I can't speak about anybody
Right.
else.
No.
All I know is
Right.
where I worked.
From just looking at it, there are your one-offs that came into IA with access to grind though.
Oh, yeah. Unfortunately, they ended up.
What was that again?
Truth. No, there were not a lot. A couple people that came to IA with an axe to grind.
Oh yeah. But
And that's
I mean,
that's the wrong way to handle business.
absolutely. That wasn't us.
I mean, to be honest, there was a supervisory level directly above us that was kind of appointed. And
For a reason, sometimes.
and that person was picked because of who they spent time with.
Yeah, so that's the politics of
Yes.
policing that the majority of people don't understand. And because we live this, we know what a great part politics plays in policing. And sometimes it makes me think that's the reason why the public has not a good image of police officers nowadays.
Okay. So from that perspective, I always, that link in our command chain, from my perspective, how it affected me, that was the weakest link in internal affairs.
Mhm.
And because of that, because of the lack of support from that supervisory level, I began to have panic attacks. And you witnessed that once in internal
Yeah, I
affairs,
did.
if I'm not
What
mistaken.
did you say, bro?
I started to have panic attacks in internal affairs
You did?
because of the amount of stress
I
and
remember that.
politics that level of command had brought to me at that point in time.
Oh, he was your partner.
Well, we sat together
next to each other in that
Yeah,
back office.
Oh, I didn't know that, Mike.
So yeah, Mike had very
And that's kind of when my whole journey with mental health and PTSD. Now I realized that it wasn't exactly those moments. It was a culmination of almost 10 years of policing at that point in time. And I had been through some violent stuff beforehand, and just things were not right with me at that time. And they got a lot
Jeez,
worse.
man.
But yeah, that's when it all started.
yeah, and at that time, like I couldn't say, well, Mike's not.
Well, if you remember, there was an investigation initiated upon me by a supervisor that was completely unfounded in BS. Like I ratted
do
somebody
remember
out
that
to
one.
a
Yeah.
federal investigation, and you were on the phone and this, that, and the other. And I just was very easily proved it wasn't me. And nobody did it in the first place. Nobody did it.
Was
But
it
like there I am
political?
being the subject of like, what the heck's going on here?
Was
I
it
didn't do
political,
anything.
Mike?
What's that?
Was it a political move, you think, by that supervisor?
I think it was a move because I was unwanted in that unit because I stood my ground for doing the right thing.
We've been
Because
there.
I was not somebody who was going to be handed a case and said, I want this to be charged. Because I didn't even open the first page yet and know one single fact. And there's no way I'm going to charge somebody if it's
Yeah.
unwarranted.
Yeah, man.
And there was several investigations at that time involving, I believe, dispatchers. And I was like, what the heck is going on here? And it was all unfair. And it was just manufactured charges against people for political reasons because they just, whatever. I don't even know what the political reasons were. I have no idea.
We were just that.
I was a pawn.
Yeah, exactly.
And
we were
what
pawns.
happened, what I've learned years later, because I've examined my mental health so much, like why am I having these panic attacks? Like back then it was just a panic attack. Like I didn't know what the heck was happening. But what I've learned is that what I was ordered to do went against my moral code. And that is something I can't do. When I went into policing, I strongly believed in like, we're all going to be brothers and sisters here, and I didn't look at color, skin color. I didn't look at religion. I don't care. We're all we're all in uniform. We're all on roll call together. And that's been my mantra, like my whole life. Like cops are cops are cops are cops.
Yes.
People are people. And that's all cool too.
Right.
But cops are cops. And that's a whole different group for me. Because I really, as a kid that never really found belonging or a home ever, I found that with police. And I
Yeah.
still find it like the
No.
bond is just, it's cool to me, you know? Like if you can walk into a room of strangers and you happen to say, are you a cop? And the guy says, yeah, he is.
Yeah.
There's something to that.
Yeah.
When I went into rehab, okay, they had started a first responder program at Princeton House where I went. And I didn't know anybody there. Now, because it was brand new, they didn't have all first responders in there. And the first night I went in there, I don't remember the guy. I couldn't tell you what he looked like, but I knew for a fact the guy had been convicted of some crimes. So there's me as a police officer trying to sleep next to a guy that had been convicted of crimes. And I'll tell you what, I couldn't sleep, right?
Yeah.
Couldn't sleep. The next day, a guy comes in who happens to be another police officer, and I'm still friendly with this guy. And all of a sudden, the criminal guy who did absolutely nothing wrong was just there getting himself well, just like I was. You know, he did absolutely nothing wrong, but he, you know, got dismissed or graduated, so to speak. And this cop moved in with me, and like right away, I felt so much safer. You know, it's just like the brotherhood, that sisterhood, and like you got my back, I got your back thing. That's what I always needed in my life, and I found that in policing. Unfortunately, during those investigations, it kind of broke me because I wasn't able to manufacture stuff against guys that.
Well, if it's not there, it's not there.
But yet, and you guys I know went through the same thing.
Yeah. If it
Well,
wasn't there.
you know, I mentioned this earlier when we were speaking. You know, I think sometimes just I don't think people are inherently evil.
Mm-mm.
I don't think so. I think sometimes, you know, work can maybe change you, make you harden you a little bit to where you don't have any compassion, any empathy. I mean, when the police are called, it's not to come to a party and hang out. All we see is negativity.
Yep.
And sometimes that hardens guys, and they don't realize what they say to each other. They don't realize the impact of words with each other, especially supervisors, and how they act. And from personal experience, right? Internal affairs is a hard job. I remember a time, I don't know if we had to do professional standards. They wanted to incorporate professional standards, and I checked out of that. I'm not doing that.
That was
Because how
back
am
in
I
those
going to
crazy
show
days.
up at headquarters? And you remember, you used to make fun of me for that because I never used to peek my head into roll call. I refuse to do that. Now, how am I going to nitpick somebody for having a little stubble on their face, or not having 2 pens in their pockets, or being 2 minutes late for roll call? Meanwhile, they have to go out in Trenton for the next 12 hours, not knowing if they're going to go home. And you want me to add that stress as soon as they come into work on top of that. And now that's the way to start the day. You're seeing IA guys in your roll call. Never agreed with that.
Mm-mm.
I think I did it one time when I felt nauseous. I was like, this is ridiculous. And every time they say, you have this roll call, I'd be like, oh yeah, okay. I'll go there. I would do this. Everybody looks good. And I would jet, because I'm like, I'm not doing this to people.
There are times where mandatory to do that. Like I remember flashlight inspections, stuff
Come on,
like
man.
that.
But the thing is
Come on, man.
that's the type of behavior that they tell you you have to go do this. And then when you do it, that's when that stigma and that bad reputation is attached to internal affairs detectives.
Like, dude, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do. Oh, you have to do it. You have to. I'm like, okay, I'll go to headquarters.
I think we all did the same thing. I
I
didn't go in there looking. I went in and I left because, like Joe says, it wasn't right.
And on top of that, sick checks, right? From my experience, like, I was sick, right? I was sick, and I was in a hospital, right? And you have to call, a complete stranger at a certain desk, and you have to tell them your symptoms. I don't want to tell you my symptoms.
And you shouldn't have to.
Isn't that a violation of some HIPAA code somewhere? I mean, I know the contract, with whatever in different departments. I don't know. I mean, that's a touchy subject. But I don't want to tell you my symptoms. I'm sick, bro. But anyway, can you send me? I had this request. Can you send me a picture of your armband in the hospital so we can verify that you're in the hospital? What?
Huh.
No.
A picture of your
of my armband at the. I mean,
I'm
how
not the
ridiculous
least
are
bit
we
surprised.
getting? And who's telling you to do this? Because if you're that kind of a supervisor, what do you bring to the table, man?
Bro.
So, and I noticed that. What kind of supervisor are you? All you worried about is trying to get people on the stupidest
That's
things.
horrible. You know what they did to me? So I left internal affairs because I wanted to get away from supervisors.
Yeah.
I went to the IT department, landed on my feet. Man, it's great.
You sure
Cake
did.
job. I did, right? I'm just Networking. All right, cool. Do my thing. And then I took a day off and went skiing, and I literally shattered my left knee. I tore it 4 different muscles. I dislocated. I had nerve damage in my foot. And the doctor's like, you may not walk again. And I'm like, my knee was so swollen. It happened in February. I wasn't able to have surgery until May because the swelling had to go down. You know what I mean? So what did the department do? I get a phone call one day from a guy who says that, hey, we need you to turn your gun and radio in. And I'm like, why? Well, it's just the order that we have to do it. And I'm like, okay, but you're not suspending me, right? No, they're not suspending you. They just want to take my gun and radio. Apparently that was incentive to get you back off a 6 time quicker. I had to call work every single day, Monday through Sunday.
Your radio so you can come back quicker. What a Crockett's.
Monday through Sunday, I had to call in at a certain time to let them know I was home for the entirety of February through May. After I had surgery, I didn't have to call in, but only on the days I was supposed to be working.
That was your knee, right?
Yeah. I'm trying to survive and live and get my knee back together.
You and I went to his house one day.
Yeah, because we knew him, we loved him, right? So he was there with his,
his dog.
His dog was all over him, and he was just like, "Yeah, man."
He had the brace on his knee, and we were just talking.
We came to hang out with you, not to check on you.
Because they made you.
This is all bullcrap, right?
Yeah,
it's crazy, man.
But why are you putting me under this stress? I'm trying to walk again.
That's the thing, man. That I saw. I'm like, if these guys are pushing us to do this, okay, who's pushing it? Like I always be like, well, who's pushing this to happen? Oh, they would always blame the director. It was the director.
Yeah.
Come to find out, it wasn't the director most of the time.
Personal agendas.
Right, with personal stuff.
Personal agendas. And those guys with the personal agendas and all those axes to grind, they were good test takers.
They didn't
really bring anything to the table.
No.
All they knew was to try to get somebody in trouble.
No.
That's crazy, right?
I knew one of them on the street was call for backup every time he looked around.
But
hey,
that's what we dealt with. Jose, are you good?
Yeah, I'm good.
So Jose, he had his experience. I wouldn't say bad supervision, but supervision that's not professional. I mean, bro, we're in this together.
Yeah.
We were a tight-knit group. And then things started falling. We
still are, yeah.
But things started falling apart a little bit with change in leadership.
Changing leadership. And I'll take over from here, Joe. I'll go into it. Yeah.
All right.
So as I stated in the previous episode, I retired early based on a very serious situation that affected me mentally for a little while. I was involved in an investigation of some very serious allegations against one of our own police officers. And I just wanted to find out and make sure that it wasn't true. That was my main initiative. If these allegations are being made against this police officer, I'm going to get to the bottom of this, even though I wasn't the lead investigator, but I was pretty involved in it because I want to clear the officer because they're bad things that are being alleged against this officer.
Mm-hmm.
So during the course of the investigation, you hear rumors, you hear cops speak. The seriousness of the investigation. You know what kind of stress it can put people under. You've heard of other situations where things didn't turn out well at all. So I became a little concerned in regards to the investigated officer. And because I was concerned based on what I was observing in the department, I addressed the leadership in reference to my concern. I felt like this police officer might be going through a very serious, stressful situation, and somebody should check up on him and maybe talk to him and help him out if anything, and also maybe take away certain things that can be harmful to him that our department issued. So I spoke to the leadership, I addressed them on the matter, and nothing was done. None of my suggestions were taken into consideration. And unfortunately, not too long after we had this meeting and I addressed the administration as far as what my concerns were, the officer who was the target of the investigation took his life. So the worst case scenario, my concern became a reality. And we lived it. I don't think you were there at that time.
No, I had retired, but I remember you actually came by my house one
Yes.
day and we talked for quite a while on my front porch about it.
Because I knew you had gone through your situation with PTSD
And stress
and
trauma.
and I appreciate that. Mike.
Yes,
that
yes.
was very.
I was glad you reached out at
yeah,
that
you
point in
helped me,
time.
and that was awesome, and I thank you for that. Joe and I were in it, bro.
I know.
We were in that office.
I felt that a lot at home just when I found out about it.
Yeah,
Because
we
I was close
experienced-
with that person. You
We
know?
experienced that horrible emotional situation in real time, man. And it was not good. It was something that even right now talking about it affects me. Not in a way where, but it just does something to you because regardless of what was going on, that's a human being, man. That's a life. That's a husband, a father,
Friend,
a coworker.
good friend.
And to have that happen, it's sad.
Somebody that made me laugh constantly. Like I just
Yeah.
always very fond
very,
memories.
very
you know?
sad. But the worst part is that being a part of the unit and having gone through this traumatic situation that you're directly involved in, and you brought the issue up of being concerned and nothing happened. And then for, as Joe called them, one of the bosses to tell you this is your fault that this happened.
One of the bosses told you this.
Told me this, and Joe can verify because he was in the room when it happened.
Wow.
And in that moment, I'm like, I'm the only guy that tried to.
So you actually tried to stopgap it before anything happened.
Well, I'm not
Or,
gonna
like,
say
you were concerned for the welfare.
Well,
obviously.
I didn't have any control
Right. I know.
over anything that was going on. I was just doing the job that they asked me to do.
Okay.
And for me to have conducted the investigation, and nothing was concluded. It was an ongoing investigation. I
Right,
just had
right.
concerns of the officer's well-being.
Right.
And then to address the matter and nothing be done. And then after the tragedy happens, to have the supervisor look at you in front of your coworkers and say, this is your fault.
Man, it's hard, bro.
So
I mean, you were there, so you know.
firsthand in real time.
That's hard.
I'll
How do you
swear to it-
expect somebody to come back to work and do the job that he was doing previously after that?
Yeah, I mean, you just short circuited a buddy of mine. I mean, so if there was ever a time that I wanted to use jujitsu on somebody at work, it was that night because we're not brothers, but he's my brother in arms, and I felt terrible. I called him immediately after that, and
That's a
you
lot.
go ahead, Jose. I'm sorry I cut you off, but I got angry. I'm sorry, brother.
I didn't even know all that stuff. I mean, we talked about it,
Mhm.
but I don't really think you exposed that part of it to me back then.
I didn't talk to anybody about it. I'm exposing it now because it has to be said.
Right.
But the fact of the matter is that how do you do that
I'll tell you how you do that.
to your coworkers? And I don't know what was going on in this individual's personal life. I don't know what his mental state was, but regardless, when you're put in a position of authority to oversee a unit such as the unit that we had, you can't conduct yourself that way, especially with the people who work for you and are doing the job that, guess what, nobody else wants to do. And we were there and we were doing it at the front lines. And to have that said to you, as you can tell right now, I'm getting a little worked up about it because it was hard. It was hard.
I can remember other cases when I was in internal affairs, and that was probably 10 years before the incident you're talking about, where like I felt concerned about an officer because of an investigation. And like you have to go over there and take care of that, you know, and just like,
But I think what Jose's saying is that he tried.
yeah,
He
and
tried
it's
all
just
them
to have that
avenues,
like just like
And I think it fell on deaf ears for whatever
it
reason.
fell on deaf ears, and then to be like kind of like accused or
So
whatever,
the
whatever word
system
you
that
want
was
to use.
so the system that was put into play as far as the internal affairs way of conducting investigations on that particular day, during that particular investigation, it failed the officer who needed help, and then it failed those like myself and Joe who were in the office trying to do the right thing and come to a conclusion based on the allegations. Instead of helping us, we were made to feel guilty for the outcome of an investigation which we had no control over.
Yeah.
And it just goes back to
It was a terrible
there are
day.
bad supervisors out there.
It was a
There's a
terrible
lot of
day.
good supervisors, but there's also
I-
bad supervisors.
I mean, the decision after my ambush, right?
Right.
Like, you weren't in a shooting. That was a decision that was out of my control. So what do? You go back to work. You say something at that point in time, it was contentious.
So
No one addressed mental health.
and you're stuck.
So
Because
I'm
you are
going
at
back to
their
patrol
whim.
midnights.
You are at their whim, and that's why we're here now.
Yeah.
Because we couldn't talk before,
No,
right?
we couldn't
because then
talk.
you
No,
would
no,
you
no.
would get dealt with. But
not just that, but the fact was, if I was to have expressed myself the way I just expressed myself in reference to that situation, it's like I said earlier in the previous podcast, where you damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. So basically, if I was to go and say, well, you know what, I don't like the way he spoke to me. Right away, you're what? You're weak. You're too emotional. Get over it. So I just kept my mouth shut. I thought about what I was going to do because I no longer wanted to work there based on that. So I'm saying to myself, if they didn't really show interest in helping someone who I was concerned about, I don't want to be a part of this.
Mm-hmm.
So I decided that when I concluded my 20th year, which would give me a portion of my pension, I would just walk away. And people thought I was crazy. I told Joe that. I didn't tell too many people, but I told Joe that. I told my wife that. I told people who were in my immediate circle. And the people who would say things that, when I got to that point. And what did I do, Joe? I retired at 20 years. And me and Joe spent my last day at the police department together.
yeah,
But it was just I was at a place in my life, in my career as a police officer, that I no longer wanted to do it.
so there's a parallel between me and Jose. I went through this early in my career.
Mm-hmm.
He went through it. Thank God for him, because going through as many years as I did, having that feeling and just fighting through it messed me up a little bit. Right here I am, like doing all the things that I'm doing. Eventually I got sick, and I'm glad I recovered from that. But Jose, he felt that, and there's a parallel between me and him. And I think that's, I don't know, man. I met you in the academy. It was really weird. Like you said, we bonded for a reason, and then we have these parallel incidents, right?
Mm-hmm.
You in the beginning, me at the end.
And he was like, and I tried to talk to him, I remember, and saying, Jose, just stick with me, man. Just let's fight it out for the next, 5-6 years?
5 years.
And you were like, hell no, I'm not doing that. And I'm like, but please do listen. You're going to regret it later on. You're going to regret it. He's like, no, I'm not. And I don't think he did, because the man retired and he started a couple businesses and he did well for himself.
I retired actually 10 years ago. Exactly. Just about 2 weeks, 10 years and 2 weeks ago.
But so real quick, Mike, before you get into what you're going to say, and the sad part of this is like, based on my personal situation in my life, where I could retire at 20 years because I had things planned. I planned everything I was going to do. The people that weren't in my situation, that were part of that investigation, like Joe and others that were left behind because they couldn't do what I did, how do you think they felt? I was able to get away and escape based on my personal life and my planning, but what about everyone else that was involved and couldn't do what I did?
Right.
Like, does anybody take that into consideration?
I feel that way too, the way I went out.
Yeah.
You know?
So that's just the point I want to make, that, even though I was able to do what I did, I left behind my colleagues who were part of that and experienced the same thing I experienced because they witnessed it firsthand.
Yep.
And that's all I'm going to say about that. So you can go into,
Yeah, I felt the same thing. After 18 years, I retired. I retired with disability PTSD. I couldn't take it anymore. Like I said, 10 years ago and 2 weeks ago, I retired January 1st of 16. And it's been really good ever since. Since those days, I've completely divorced alcohol. Got that out of my life completely. But I don't just mean not drinking, because I had went to rehab in 2014. So there was like a year and a half. It was like summer of 14, you know, and I retired in 16. So I still fought with like relapsing and like wanting to drink and all that stuff. But for some reason, I found some peace when I retired, and I just, the thoughts and the desire to drink never came up again. So literally, I'm really happy with the past decade of my life because I've accomplished so much from all the horrible things I went through at TPD, if that makes sense. And I don't blame TPD for any of it. I don't blame anything. Like, I'm proud to come from that organization. There's so many people there that I still know that support me, that support us, that's, you know, that I could reach out to. And that brotherhood and sisterhood thing. Yeah. It's not just the cops, it's the new cops that I haven't met yet, or that I know through social media. It's the personnel throughout the department. Like, you know, the couple of people you talk to on midnight shift that just work there doing this or that, or the radio room, or the guy that cleaned up, or, you know, you just meet people and you talk to them, and it was all good. But the job itself, police officer in urban environments, especially in Trenton, takes a lot out of you, man. It's a life-changing experience. You know, my biggest challenges came during the layoffs. Personnel was down, violence was up. Those are the years we were hitting in the 40s, close to 43, 44, 45 homicides a year. We were all witnessing shootings. My midnight shift went from 22 to 12 guys. Going to work, I would show up really early because I had to get the laptop I stashed in the rusted out car that had no tires on it in the trunk, because there's only like 5 laptops for the police cars, you know. I had this system of bungee cords to keep the laptop open because it was broken, would just flop around, like, you know.
Those laptops back then were,
it was horrible.
They were like solid, like almost like metal, right?
Yeah, no, we had the cheap laptops. Just
the
basic,
old ones that were $500
laptop. No, $500
laptop, but the ones in the car were.
They were in the car.
No, but I'm talking about, remember those big ones? They were like thick, and
we did have those, but that was later on.
Yeah,
this is in the beginning, and just had this crowd, and like the car didn't work. I used to carry tools and a jump box with me because I could jump my police car when it didn't work, and it was insane.
Talk about the equipment, Mike. I remember when I first came on in 1999, and I was working the midnight shift. We had a wagon
with the holes.
It was wagoning, and
yes.
The wagon had a hole where the seat was. You would sit in the car seat, and then you would look on the floor of the vehicle.
You could see the road rushing by.
You could see the road.
Yes, I remember that.
You could see the outside of the streets and Trenton.
It never affected the guys that were there for 20 years. They didn't care.
They fixed it. They just dropped some metal.
No, but I'm talking about like, dude, I'm new. You know, I had this image of police officer like
it was rusted through. Literally
how can
rusted
that bother
through.
You looking down, and you seen the road just.
You didn't expect that.
I came out of academy.
And the crazy part was that it didn't bother you after a while. You were like, oh, okay, that's normal.
The guys were different too because they didn't care. The old timers, they didn't care. Like we were expecting everything to be pristine, right? You're protecting. Yeah. No, it wasn't like that. So it takes me to this funny story that when I started, real quick story is, you know, when I graduated the academy, I got this beautiful 2 pens and a beautiful, like, you know, thing you could write in. What do you call them? Little leather back pads. And I remember one time I got partnered up with this old timer, and he had a nickname for being really slow. Right. So I got in the wagon with him. He was working overtime, and we're heading to West Trenton. He goes, "Hey, kid." I go, "Yes." You know, all proper, you know, yes. He looks at me. He's got the cigarette hanging out the window. He's like, God. You got a pen and a pad? I go, "Yes, sir." I said, it's right here, sir. I have it just in case, you know, for the reporting. He goes, "You mind if I see him?" I go, "Yeah, no problem." I take the pad out. He grabs it with his right hand. Puts the cigarette in his mouth. Puts the cigarette in his mouth. Threw it out on West State Street. And he says to me, "We won't be needing them tonight, kid."
I also worked with that
and I'm
guy.
Like, me too.
It cost over $100. Yeah, well, I just kept driving and just kept smoking. I just sat there like a dummy with my mouth open. Like, what was I going to say, right?
Did that just happen?
Yeah. The first few months is kind of like severe culture shock. I mean, I came from the suburbs. I did not know anything about hanging out in the city. Like, you guys came from the city, so you had a little bit of expectations that I did not. For me, it was like driving down the street and going, wow, it's midnight and this is going on right now, because certain areas that I was in West Trenton and certain areas are pretty hot and heavy and just crazy on those nights.
But I'll tell you what, man,
the guys and the old guys and the old timers and the stories you're hearing
They
from
were
like
funny.
the
They
50s
were-
and
they
60s
were
and
funny, man.
70s.
Those
My
guys were
goodness.
funny. But you know what? Regardless of everything that I experienced in my career, at the end, the beginning was wonderful. I loved being a Trent police officer.
Me too.
It's something that I wanted since I was a little boy. And to be able to live that dream out and experience that life for 20 years, I wouldn't trade that
No.
for anything, because it taught me a lot. It molded me into who I am today. And it was great, man. I had wonderful times. I had good times with Joe. I had good times with you. We worked together. We had fun. And overall, even though things weren't always the way we expected them to be or great, I'm happy that I had the opportunity
Me too.
to be a police
Yeah.
officer.
And quite honestly, all the traumas and stuff that I went through, it shaped the past 10 years of my life. Yeah, I went through some really bad times. Yeah, I'm really lucky to be alive in a lot of different ways, but I'm here. And because of those experiences, I've discovered strengths and avenues in myself that I never would have if things didn't go that, off the rails for me, so to speak.
Yeah.
You mentioned Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. For me, I totally get that. But it's mountain biking,
Yeah.
and just that intensity that I love danger, it's
Fast cars.
fast cars, fast bikes. Yeah.
I lived in the same neighborhood as Mike lived in,
Huh.
and I had a little business in the plaza, and I would hear this loud car, and I knew it was him. What did you have? Like
Hellcat, my
a
Hellcat.
Hellcat. You can hear him coming, like, that's Mike.
Bright ass purple Hellcat.
So guys, this show is as you can see, we're going to start. We got all the dark stuff out of the way.
Yeah.
Finally, it's done. It's over. Now we're going to start talking about stuff that really matters. How to help police officers, the guys that are on the front line out there doing their jobs the right way.
The boots on the ground.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's who we're here for. If whoever bosses in certain administrative positions don't like what we're saying, well, I guess this show's not for you.
Well, honestly, everybody pretty much, I obviously retired a lot before you guys, but
No,
everybody's gone.
No, that's fine.
And
That's
it's
fine.
like,
But there are
it's not,
still
and I'm
people
not
who are like,
directing anything at anybody
Right, but-
anyway. It's
no,
just,
no,
it
it's
is what it
not
is.
at anyone. But if if you're getting uneasy hearing us talk about this, I don't think anybody's ever done it before. We're not here to hurt anyone. But again, like if this show bothers you, well, then the show's not for you. We're mostly here for the people that are doing the hard work. Like Jose said, boots on the ground, guys that are actually going out there, not only dealing with problems in the community, but dealing with problems sometimes from internal stuff. We're going to talk about not specific internal affairs investigations, but how to handle an investigation if you are the target, if you do get a target letter, what to do, what not to do, know your rights. Trust is a weird thing in police departments. You might think, the union, everybody in the union has your back. Nobody has your back. You are on your own. I dealt with it firsthand. I can speak to it. When I went through my situation, I didn't want any union representation. I dealt with it on my own. I was the only one in the arena dealing with all that craziness from way back when. And that was the best way to handle it, because come to find out, back when, the union guys were very connected to the administrative guys, and what the hell was I going to get out of them anyway? Nothing. So, and I'm not saying you should always go through work thinking that somebody's out to get you, because that's not true either. But you should know your rights, protect yourself, do the job the right way. And that's what we're going to get into next episode. And we're going to speak about current affairs. And I'm sure, when this airs, everything that's going on in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and probably looking for a police officer's or a detective's point of view. I'm old enough and smart enough to know not to comment on stuff that I don't know about. I'll be damned if I take a cue from legacy media or social media to castigate or to exonerate an officer in any branch of government for something I don't really know anything about. As a detective, you have to have all the facts, the background, everything. And that's my stance on it. I don't know enough to say anything. I'm not there. I'm not investigating. I don't know how my co-hosts feel about that.
I strongly agree that any judgment before all the facts are laid out, it would be much like those particular supervisors that hand you a case and say, charge this person.
Yeah, we're going
before
to
you
talk
open
about
it,
that
you
too,
know?
because I had a few of them. But,
You know, it's
And I
just-
agree with you, Mike. What
it's-
you said.
you
Yeah,
can't
I feel the
snapshot.
same way until it's completely done. I have no say.
Yeah.
I want to say thank you, as I'm closing out, to the Trenton Police Department
yeah.
for giving me the opportunity to serve my community and my city, and to tell them that we're not out to bash anyone or make them look look evil. We're just stating our experiences, talking about what we went through, and also the problem that I had with policing wasn't policing; it was the politics that affected the way policing was being conducted.
It was all of it for me. I just got to that point where it was just enough. I had enough, and I walked out, and I'm very glad I did. And
Well,
I'm celebrating the past 10 years of my
And
life.
and let me tell you, Mike, from I knew you
Uh-huh.
when you were having those panic attacks,
Yes.
and to see you where you are today. Congratulations, brother.
Appreciate
You've done
that,
a
brother.
great job.
Appreciate that.
You've done a great job.
You guys been around for a lot of that.
Yeah.
I'm lucky to be surrounded by these guys.
Yeah.
And I'm lucky to be here, standing here talking to you today, and I'm grateful. And that's one thing on a closing note, guys. It's hard to walk around with gratitude in life, especially doing the job that you're doing on the streets. It's hard because you see a lot of negativity. But if you can try at least once a week and turn it into once every couple of days, show gratitude for what you have. Health is wealth. Take care of yourselves. Go to the doctors, get checked. Don't be like me, hard-headed. I hate doctors. I'm not going to the doctors. I can do this all on my own, because you can't. It's a hard profession. Look after yourselves. And thank you. The next episodes are going to be much lighter, much more informative. And thank you, Jose. Thank you, Mike.
You're welcome.
Thank you, April, Joy,
Andrew. Thank you all. And just like as Joe was saying, just take care of yourself, man. Take care of yourself.
Be well. We'll be
And
back.
I'm going to take Mike's last line from the first episode. Click, like, and subscribe.
There you go.